Today, we're going to be briefly covering functions and getting deep into the if functions. There are going to be examples of if functions that vary from simplified to more complex, as well as real-life applications of if functions and nested if functions. What are functions? A function is a set of instructions saved under a name. Functions are typically organized by category, so we need to research them as we need them. The categories are such as financial, time, text, statistical, and algorithmic. Common examples of these functions are equal sum A1, A4, and equal average A4 to C4. The first example takes the total in cell A1 and the total in cell C4 and adds them together. The next example takes the total in cell A4 and the total in cell C4 and adds the totals, then divides it by 2, which is the total number of cells selected, and then gives the average. Now that we understand a function and have gone over a couple examples, what is an if function? If functions are a function that allows us to set up alternative outcomes that depend on a condition. Usually, you see this in the form of a conditional statement. For example, we can set up an if function that displays pass or fail depending on a score. We'd probably say something like, if the score is 70 or more, the student passes, otherwise the student fails. This is set up into 3 parts. Part 1, which is the condition. Part 2 is what to do when the condition is true part. And Part 3, the alternative outcome, what to do when the condition is false part. An example of this 3-part condition. Looking at cell C2, let's begin writing the 3-part if function. So, starting with the condition, we're going to begin with an equal f and then a parenthesis, and then B2 is greater than or equal to 70. So now that we've written that, which is what to do when the condition is true, we're going to add the comma and pass, and then another comma, make sure you have your parentheses, and fail, and then close the parenthesis here. So now that we've added that, hit enter, and because we wrote in our condition that if the cell B2 is greater than 70, it's going to have a pass. So now that we've done that, you're going to click on the corner until you see the plus sign like so, and then drag it down, and it's going to take the same if function we just wrote, and it's going to write it for all the remaining cells. So if you look, it has B3, and then B4 up here, and then B5, and of course B6. Making it a little more complex, let's look at nested if functions. A nested if function is where we code an if inside another if because we have more than 2 outcomes. This is usually in the sentence form, which is called the syntax. To make more sense of this, let's look at an example from our final grade spreadsheet. Creating the nested if function. A 90 or greater is an A, an 80 to 89 is a B, a 70 to 79 is a C, a 60 to 69 is a D, and anything lower than a 60 is failing. This is what we're going to use to describe the nested if function. This function is going to take your final points in the class and give you a written letter grade based off those points. And these are the points that you can see all within this section, and they have the weights on the left side. So here you're going to see the current grades in the class, which has the labs and projects and everything we've done in the class. The spreadsheet keeps track of all your grades and calculates your score for the class. In cell N15, you can see the letter A. This is the final grade in the class based on the scores from the assignments. This letter A was generated by a nested if function. This nested if function is based on the condition written out in the cell and will change based on your assignment scores. So select cell N15, and we're going to begin writing out the nested if function. Now, this can get a little complicated with all the parentheses, letters and writing, so just follow along. So we're going to start with the equals and the if, which is how we start our if functions, and then of course the parentheses. I'm going to write N14, and you can see how it selects the cell right here in the final points, and put the greater than sign, and then an equal to 90, and then add another comma, an A, and then another comma, an if, and then we pretty much repeat the same thing over again, but with all the different things I described before. So like the 80 is a B, and then the 70 and the 60, and then failing. So we're going to continue writing this. So if parenthesis N14 is greater than or equal to an 80, and then you put your B, just like so, and then another comma, and then the if, and then a parenthesis, and then once again N14, and then you're greater than, you're equal to, and now we put the 70. So you're going to see it's kind of repetitive, but just make sure that your parentheses close each time. Or sorry, that one's going to stay open, but you just need to make sure it closes at the end. So we have a 70, so if it's a 70, it's going to be a C. And then once again, another comma, an if, and then your parenthesis once again, N14, greater than, equal to a 60, and then once again, it's going to be, a comma, and then your D, and then another comma, and then this is all with the score. So anything that's below a 60, you don't have to write it out like we have been before. You just have to put your F, and you just put those in quotation marks. So now you can count up one, like if you look right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 parentheses, and so you need to make sure to put your 4 parentheses. Now that you've done that, you can hit your enter and see how it selects your A. So now that we've written out the function, it should generate the overall grade in the class based on the scores from the labs, projects, final grade, and website. So now if we go through and change some of the grades around, like we can look at some of the labs. Let's change this one to, let's do a 70. We can change this one to a 60. You can see it's right here in this box. It's adjusting the score, and since this is still a 90, we still have the A in the final letter grade. We can mess around with a little more and put like a 70 in one of these. So once again, a 92. Let's put a 0 in here. Now we have a B since we're at an 89. This can also tell you what grade you need on the final video and website to score the grade you need in the class. So right now I have them set at 90, so let's change them around to like an 80. So it bumps you to an 87. Let's say we score a 70 on our website. That puts you at an 81 in the class. So you can generate the score you need. So let's say we want to be in the class. We need to make sure we score above a certain amount.